Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you're all having an amazing day. We're starting off with the white pieces against a 2076 from Brazil. Oh my gosh. Wow. let's go for knight f3. I should realistically be sticking to playing the Grand Prix. But for now, sure. We'll do this. We'll play bishop e2, see if they fall for the little trick of queen check winning the knight. I don't think they will. Yeah, that's sensible. And we can carry on the trick actually with d4. If they decide to take now, we go d5. The knight goes back and we get the exact same trick. And it's still on. It's still on. And they decide to go for it. They decide to go for it. Now, this is fine for black because they have check. And we need to be very, very careful with what we're doing. So you do go d5. They throw in queen check. Yep. And we play on from here. What is the move? Probably knight c3. I should know this theory. We'll go knight c3. I don't know if that's right. It doesn't feel right, but there's nothing we can really do that stops a knight taking. Maybe even b4 as a potential idea, but that looks yucky. So maybe not. We definitely will go over this theory once we finish with this game, because there are so many interesting lines from what I can remember. By the way, delayed Alapin, Sicilian defense delayed Alapin, Bassman Palatnik double gambit, which is insane. So apparently it's theory. I just don't know any of it, which is always a great start. They go knight e5. Can we take that? We probably want to keep the pieces on the board, right? Seeing as how we've got 2 pawns hanging. Well, 1 pawn hanging. That's covered by the queen. Wow. We probably want to take... We could castle. Let's take it. What's the worst that can happen? And then we'll castle. We're still giving up this pawn because bishop d3 looks cool. c4, possible. In fact, we don't even have to go bishop d2 now. We could straight up go like rook b1 or something. And they decide to go for e6. We could go d6 here. Is a possibility. We could also go c4 here. I think potentially works as well. I don't want to take because that just frees up their pieces, which I'm not a fan of. So we'll actually go c4 here. And c4 you could claim is limiting your light square control, but realistically there's nothing happening there. At least now we get like d6 potential c5 as well. Bishop d2 is still possible. Yeah, bishop d2 is still possible. They're probably going to castle. We can think about attacking the king, but we probably want to keep the play on the queen side. Let's go bishop e2. Looking for a potential c5, because if we can get these pawns rolling, they're going to be really, really dangerous. I think that's a reasonable move. Looking for e4. E4 will just play g3 though. Let's go rook c1, which is really where the rook wants to be. I think b6 is very reasonable as well. Looking for a bishop b7. Maybe then we take, but then, you know, these are potentially very strong bishops we have to be aware of. Could throw in the check, but then bishop d7. So maybe after bishop d7 we throw in the check. And that would sort of force the king up, which I don't mind at all. I think now maybe a bishop f3 could work. Bishop f3, that comes with tempo though. So maybe not. I think for now, queen c2 might be reasonable. Again, looking to push and control the center. Takes now could be good for them, actually. Yeah. We're down a pawn. We're down a pawn, and that's not nice. Yeah. We have some pressure on the e pawn, but that can be quickly rectified with f6. For now, I think we just need to get the rooks active. Bishop a3 was a good move there. I think they missed. We can play like a bishop a6. I think is natural. b5 is more annoying than dangerous. I think we could just go like a rook cb1, not rook b to b2, because then bishop a3 is devastating. With the fork, I guess, double attack skewer on the two rooks there. Then again, if we go rook c to b1, the same happens on the f5 square. So I don't know. I don't know what's best there. They look for f4. We could go for like a bishop b7 here. In fact, I don't mind that. And then go bishop c6. Threaten to trade off the bishop. Where is it going? And then maybe an f4. I'd like a g3 first, though, to back that up. But then push seems very, very annoying. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad. We have the open file, but I don't think that's the end of the world. I really would like an f4, though. Get rid of this dark squared bishop and maybe start pushing our pawn then. Then again, e4 seems nasty. Could we take? Rook takes and go there? Probably not. I think we might have to push f4. I think we might have to push f4. We are still down a pawn. a4, a5 doesn't look horrible. They decide to take, though, which is interesting. Because I'm going to take with the bishop. And then play this. Play this. With a scary-looking pass pawn, I must say. You know, the rooks are there. They are there. We might have a bit of trouble pushing it. Granted. But it's there. It's there for sure. I don't know whether d6 is a good move or not. This rook's very solid with the king covering it. So there are no c7 tactics. I think a rook d8. Ooh, they look to trade off. They look to trade off. Could I do a d6? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. Takes. Rook takes is the move. Then rook takes, then rook takes. Then rook d2. The king comes in eventually and just wins that pawn. We've got a rook b7, potentially. Rook takes, rook takes. Then d6 might be a bit more interesting. With like some bishop d5. I don't mind that. I think that's probably the better of the options. Probably the better of the options. The rook could go back to b8. But they decide to trade off. Bishop there, by the way, we have check first. And then maybe even d6. d6 doesn't quite work. But we have like a bishop c6 potentially. We'll throw in the check either way. Either way, I think we throw in the check. Because that forces the king even further, right? They go there. Oh, that doesn't seem right. That does not seem right. D6. D6. King up, then you've got, yeah. And then with D6 as well, you're threatening bishop D5. So D6 takes, bishop takes there. You can't stop it. So we just go D6, and I think this is good. I don't know if it's winning or not, but there's some scary stuff. Bishop D7, again, we have this devastating check where we just win the rook. They don't fall for it, although that does actually still win the rook because the pawn is blocking the E7 square, which is devastating, which just wins as the rook, basically. I think just rook F8 was the wrong way to go. You have to take the hit and go to H7, unfortunately, which is nasty. It's not a move you want to play, but some situations you just have to, because realistically, I'm not promoting the pawn. It's only when you give me tactics am I ever threatening to promote the pawn. By the way, back up to 2,000. I did a few games on my own. Got some rating points back. So we're back over 2,000. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's have a look at this because this is wild. This is a bit wild. I think we were running on fumes towards the end, but luckily our opponent did kind of slip up. Yeah, let's see. So, knight f3 Sicilian. We're hoping for a knight c6 to play the Portsmouth gambit, which, if you're new here, is ridiculous and one of my favourite openings of all time, to be honest. Hopefully we will see it at some point. But I am trying to properly switch over to the Grand Prix. I just need to motivate myself to do a bit more theory. I've been covering the King's Indian defence, specifically like the fianchetto lines, all the things I struggle with at the minute. So I will get there, I promise. But anyway, the delayed Alapin, really cool. The regular Alapin goes here. Very different because this knight's not here. So delayed Alapin is a delayed version of that, believe it or not. And the whole point of bishop e2 is that if the knight takes, it's a cheap little trick. You just win, basically. And it continues here with d4. If they take, you have d5. Same exact trick. Same exact trick. It's just it's a secondary delay to the tactics, which is crazy. They played the smart version of it, though. They played the very smart version of it. Which sort of forces white into this dubious looking gambit where you get some superficial counterplay, but you need to sort of know what you're doing, which I definitely don't. You have to block with the knight. I don't think blocking with anything else is wise. We can check the engine real quick, though. King f1, apparently. Knight fd2, but that doesn't look nice. You're backwards developing, you know. It's not pleasant. They take, obviously, because this knight is dubious at the minute. When things clear up, although the queen is covering the checking square, which is good for them, I guess. But they trade off. The knight's in the center. It's a bit weak. They trade off. They weaken my pawn structure, and it frees up a move for their knight to e5. And taking is the correct option, apparently. And I guess the whole point is, like we said, you're just playing with these two pawns and a whole load of hope. This is a cool move. I really like this move. If I take, they just develop their bishop, and I'm safe to say, like, we're not happy here. Apparently, we still have plenty of activity, and it's still drawing, but I wouldn't want to play that. If we push, you've overcommitted the pawn. I think you're going to lose it eventually. Probably queen there to stop the bishop going to a3, actually. With the bishop on d7, so it can't go any further. It's lost, basically. It's safe to say it's lost. Although with the bishop on d7, maybe the king goes to d7 instead to add another attacker. Yeah, it don't look nice. Bishop d6, apparently a blunder, because takes. Oh, the bishop is hanging. And if they move that, then you get check, which is devastating. Because now the king's in the middle of the board. We could swap off the queens if we want. Apparently d3 is the option. But we have our material back, at least. Queen c7. Apparently pushing... Oh, because if you... Wait, really? Takes? Then what? You have check? Bishop blocks. Oh, and then... Queen takes there? Queen takes? Oh, and then the bishop hangs. Wow. Ooh, wow. Yeah, so king's forced to take, and then check. King takes. And then there. If you want to hang on to the pawn, you can, but I wouldn't want to do that. So at least you get the pawn back. You are down a piece, though. This is sketchy. B6 holds the bishop. Then you take that. And this still can't move because of the pin. So the rook comes in, rightfully so. Then check. Oh, wow. Is brave. The computer is brave. I'll give it that. I don't really know what the tactics are here, to be honest. It looks like nothing really works. I guess the rook comes in at some point, and then how do you stop that is the answer. I don't think there is an answer. I don't think that there is an answer to that question. Yeah, h6. You just drop back, surely. And then same problem is there. You know, how do you stop rook e1? How do you stop rook e1? Apparently not even the move. You go rook d1, rook f to d1. Oh, and that's also a threat as well. Ooh, wow. With rook takes, queen takes mate. Wow, beautiful. That was good. I like d6 as a move, yeah. Queen c2 I didn't like. That was definitely a mistake. Because you allow d5. So the move here is just c5. And I guess it's very similar to before, where you're doing this. Although queen can take now because the bishop's no longer hanging on c5. Check. Queen takes. And maybe you just claim it's a bit weak. You've got a check here. Queen goes back. You can take and then get a pawn. And play a pawn down rook endgame for a draw. Is an option. Although queen a6 apparently is a move. The rook comes to c8 to defend the pawn. And then you put pressure on this bishop. But then like rook c6. You know, you're running on fumes a bit. Fumes and fake threats. So, I don't know. Anyway, e takes, force off the queens. There's nothing we can really do about that. Unless we want to go down even more pawns. Bishop f3 apparently works. But then bishop b7 stops the pin. And the reason bishop f3 is an idea is because if they take, you just win the rook. So bishop b7 is a suitable reply to stop that attack. And then add another thing. Queen c3 takes. Rook takes, I guess. Yeah. Maybe trade off then. And again, you're down 2 pawns at this point. So if they can get castled, if they can secure this bishop somehow, I think black's doing fine. But again, these like we saw from those tactics, they're deep. They are very deep. Almost positional tactics, which is crazy to sort of say, but they're so like subtle and so like you've got to lead up to them. It's very hard to find, I think. We double up the rooks, yeah. Bishop a6, and the whole point of bishop f6 is to control this c8 square, so no rook can get in. The problem is b5 potentially a move, but then you might also be weakening b5. You're also weakening c5 like we see there. And maybe this pawn's got a bit more of a hope now that one of the bishops is off the board. Not that. But yeah. You get material back apparently. Very cool. Bishop b7. I didn't mind. I thought it gave us something on c6, so at least this pawn had a bit more of an anchor. I definitely thought f4 could have been played here. Oh, maybe not hanging the piece first. Yeah, here I definitely thought f4. Just asking to open up my position, basically. I have to go like d4, which doesn't look particularly nice. Then the rook can come in, and with the bishop pair, it's a bit more easy for black, I think. F4 takes, yeah, and we're heading into an early end game here. We're heading into an early end game. Same coloured bishops. My rooks are a bit more active, and obviously we have this pass pawn here. Yeah, I think you don't have to worry about this open file. As scary as it looks, what am I doing with it? Not much. I think, like the computer says there, it's better to actually control the passed pawn itself than worry about the threats of the open file, because that's my only source of play. If you are able to make threats on that and distract my rooks from being on the open file, force them to defend, then you get the king over. You win it, and then it's probably still a draw being up a pawn, if I can get a pawn back for it. But, you know, you've killed my source of play, basically. I went bishop b7 to actually purposefully trade off the rooks, which the computer doesn't like. But then bishop a4, a very tempting move with the discovered. But rook c8 is the way to go. I mean, it's a pretty obvious intermezzo move, forcing the king back to h7. So apparently you go king f8. And we all know how active kings need to be in the endgame. They get better the more active they are. I'm definitely going to struggle defending this pawn now. You know, if you can get the bishop and the rook and the king involved, I'm just out of luck, basically. I'm just out of luck. But bishop a4, we have the intermezzo. They have to go, I think, king h8, h7. And then maybe I can hope to push, but at the end of the day, I think you're still able to win it. Obviously, don't blunder the bishop. I think what I was going to do was bishop c6 here, I thought, to get the pawn a bit further away from the king. But at the same time, you go to c7. With the king on h7, it's actually a bit of a barricade for black, really. And I can never move the rook with check or come behind because they've got these pawns in the way. And eventually their pass pawns, their pawn majorities, sorry, are going to crush me. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else to say, really. But they allowed this. D6, very sneaky move. You're not actually threatening to push the pawn. You're just looking for this check. That's all there is to it, basically. And king f7, not nice. You have to do this. Then maybe something happens, but you get there in time. And we're still playing chess. You know, like there's some play left, but at the end of the day, you know, you've definitely got the advantage. You're going to be 2 pawns up when you win this. The computer still says it's drawing, but you can't claim that. Actually, this is interesting. This is really interesting. The king's completely locked out here. The king is completely locked out. Wow, I can see why this is drawing now. That's really, really cool. That is really, really cool. The king can't get into any of these squares to actually attack the pawn. So as long as you leave it here, and the pawn being on a dark square as well, how do they play? So they would have to try get the bishop to d7, at which point they give up a pawn. So maybe if they go like here, you keep going, they go there. This is now secure. You keep going, and then they go for bishop d7, takes there. And I don't know, that looks winning for black. That looks winning for black. But yeah, where did I go wrong there? Oh, king there is wrong. You go h4. And if they go there, then king bishop a6, and you keep the bishops on the board. Oh, and then you go bishop check. Yeah, and the bishop blocks, you just go back and repeat. So it forces the king away. And actually, the bishop's doing the same job as this bishop, while by sort of blocking their king away, like it still can't come near, which is really, really cool. And the point of h4 is just to solidify this so the king can't get around this way. That's insane. I really, really, really like that. Anyway, the king goes up, and then we just win the rook here because the king cannot actually stay close to the rook to defend it. So we just win the rook. You know, the king comes out, we win the rook and then promote. Or the bishop trades itself off for the pass pawn, and then we win slowly. Anyway, that was really cool, actually. For a slow start, there's a lot of interesting... Well, I mean, I say a slow start. It was a double gambit. It was a double gambit. I can't exactly say that. But a lot of really subtle, really cool moves, especially going towards the end game with that pass pawn. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. And I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.